Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. We are 1 week out from the pre-release for Avatar: The Last Airbender, which will be available in paper at your local game stores next weekend. So it is time for my pre-release guide. So I'll be talking about the set mechanics and rules, going over the basic archetype themes, what each color pair is trying to do, and then we'll cover some of the common removal that you will look for when you're opening a pack during your pre-release. So when you register for the pre-release event, that you will receive one of 5 themed pre-release packs. And so you'll have 5 play boosters and then one seeded the Last Airbender character booster. And each character booster is themed around a different avatar and a specific magic. So the magics, and we'll kind of talk about some of the returning stuff too. First up here, we've got firebending. Creatures with firebending create mana when they attack. Fueling fire of whatever spells or abilities can help you win combat. You'll notice that the mana is not available after combat ends. And then airbending exiles objects to delay threats or to protect your own permanents from destruction until they can be cast again later. So they're not gone forever, but they are delayed. And then waterbending allows you to tap creatures and artifacts to help pay for more powerful effects, sort of like Convoke. And then we've got earthbending, and earthbending you put a land. Earthbending allows you to turn a land into a creature. You put a +1/+1 counter on it so that it can then fight for you. And then when that land dies or is exiled, it isn't a creature anymore, but it doesn't go to the graveyard. Instead, it goes back to being a land, which is nice because one of the downsides in the past was that you would put these +1/+1 counters on something and then your opponent would remove it, and you'd basically end up like, stone raining yourself. So the fact that it goes back to being a land is nice. Okay, so we also see some returning mechanics. So we see double-faced sagas. Each saga enters with a lore counter on it, and that triggers chapter 1. So like when you play this, it would destroy all creatures. And then at the beginning of your next main phase on your next turn, it would move to the second chapter on down the line. And then instead of sacrificing it at the end of chapter 3, which is normally what you do for sagas, these ones exile and then they come back as their other side. So when the story is complete, the main character of the story appears on the battlefield ready to fight. Lessons are a returning subtype that appear on some instances and sorceries. You may remember in the past that they came along alongside the keyword action learn. Learning is not part of this set. Rather, there are several cards in the set that will reward you for either casting lesson spells or having lesson cards in your graveyard, like Ong, the Last Airbender. Exhaust is also returning, so exhaust abilities. They're on a small number of cards in the set to give you that one-time boost to help overcome your opponent. And we also see clue tokens are returning. Unlike in previous sets, clue tokens aren't created by the investigate ability, and so they're just a predefined token that cards sometimes create, but they have nice synergies with the draw 2 mechanic or archetype, as we'll get into, as well as waterbending, where you can tap the clue token to help cast your spells or pay the waterbend cost. Flashback is also coming back on some cards. It allows you to cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard for the flashback cost, letting you play the spell once again. And then the last thing that we should probably talk about is shrines. So shrines are returning subtype. They generally benefit you the more shrines that you have, and note that they are legendary. So it encourages you to usually go into a 5-color space so that you can collect as many shrines as possible. All right, so now that we've covered the kind of basic mechanics and rules of the set, I just wanted to give a quick point out to 2 cards that caught my attention, as is a tradition, for my constructed players, because the majority of you will probably know me from my best of 1, best of 3 meta review on Mondays that I do for Standard. So Waterbender Ascension, I thought deserved a shout out. It's a 1 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, you put a quest counter on the enchantment, and then if there are 4 more quest counters, you draw a card. This is definitely something that can be abused. And then Waterbend for colorless, target creature can't be blocked this turn. So it also gives you a win condition, making something unblockable. So it immediately makes me think of Proliferate in Commander decks, that sort of thing, where if you have a quest counter on it and then you proliferate and it has more than 4 on it, you're immediately just drawing a card every time that you trigger a proliferate, which there are plenty of infinite proliferate loops. And then Planetarium of Wan Shi Tong is another one that I think will find its home somewhere, especially in Commander. Whenever you scry or surveil, look at the top card of your library, and then you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Do this only once each turn. You know, you get the Divining Top in play. There's some shenanigans that somebody's going to do with this card. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up on it. And then we'll also kind of talk about just what the color pairs are trying to do. So when you open up your packs in pre-release, you're usually kind of stuck to what what cards did you open. What I like to do is I like to look what signpost uncommons do you have. So what gold uncommons do you have? Because they tend to be restricted by mana cost, but then really powerful and in alignment with what your archetype is trying to do. So don't worry if you can't read that text. I know it's really small. We'll go into each archetype specifically. So blue-black is a draw 2 archetype. I think it's probably going to be best as a control deck. So you're trying to draw your second card each turn, and the easiest way to do this is clue tokens, like I mentioned before. And then for extra value, you can tap those clue tokens to pay waterbend abilities and then sacrifice them to draw cards, since clue tokens don't need to tap to be able to do their ability. I think those two have nice synergies. Black-red Fire Nation aggro is, of course, the one of the aggro archetypes, and I think is one of the most aggressive decks that you can build. So you're casting creatures and creating tokens with firebending, and then using all of that spare red mana on spells like Combustion Technique, instant, so you can cast it during the combat phase, Lightning Strike, Fire Nation attacks. Right, so just any of these things that are going to let you use that extra mana. And then we've got the red-green is Earth Rumble Ramp, and so you're kind of doing this like power 4 or greater thing, but also having some ramping up into those power 4 cards. So you're going to have that sub-theme of transforming your lands through earthbending into powerful creatures, and that remember, when you earthbend, you can put counters on lands that are already creatures. And maybe I failed to mention that before, but this can enable cards that care about power 4 or greater, like the Boulder Ready to Rumble. Green-white is allies, and it's the theme, of course, is about Ong and all of his all of his allies, and so kind of green-white is the party, right? So it's all about going wide with creatures and ally creatures specifically. So several cards care about the number of allies that you control or allies entering, so focus on going wide with cards like the Kyoshi Warriors. And if I massacred the pronunciation of this, if any of these cards, I apologize. So white-black is Sacrifice, and so if you're into sacrificing your little creatures and your fodder, typically this is an attrition kind of strategy where you're trading your stuff 1 for 1 against your opponent, but then you have like a go small strategy where you're gaining value on that over your opponent. So cards that trigger when they die, like the Curious Farm Animals or Pretending Pox Bearers, become more powerful in that archetype where they're more easily killed and used as sacrifice fodder. And then you've got the blue-red combat lessons, and this one I think leans the most heavily into the lessons synergy. So you can kind of take lessons in a variety of different ways, though. So like Teamer, blue, red, and green are kind of doing the lessons thing the most all in. And you can play it as an aggressive combat-focused strategy, and several of the spells care about the number of lessons in your graveyard. So that makes me look at like abandoned attachments. You can discard to get additional lessons into your graveyard if that's what your card, if your deck is trying to do that. And then black-green is +1/+1 counters, and that one's kind of interesting because like we usually see that in green-white, but along with the earth bending that you're seeing in red-green, it kind of opens up Jund or black-red-green to have this earthbound +1/+1 counters theme. So arm your creatures with +1/+1 counters through a variety of different means. One of the easiest ways is to add counters to your creatures with the earthbend keyword action. Creatures like the Badger Mole will add counters to your board while providing additional bonuses, and Toph, the Blind Bandit, is a key finisher for any counter-centric deck. Red-White is a go-wide aggro strategy, so you're going to try to combine the ally tokens of white and the aggressive spells of red for a devastating effect, and you create a swarm of tokens to take advantage of combat tricks, like cards like Fancy Footwork, allowing you to take advantage of the go wide, and then you can also force your opponents to unfavorably block, and then blow them away with a perfectly timed enter the avatar state. Green-blue is a ramp and lessons, whereas blue-red may be taking some of the aggression from red. Blue-green is more about using lessons that are focused on additional lands. So there are multiple lessons that let you search for additional lands, allowing you to accelerate towards massive payoffs like Soka's Haiku. And then, but like casting Shared Roots and then following that up with Cycle of Renewal allows you to get to a very high land count and then spend that mana on something. All right, and then last but not least, I want to talk about just kind of a brief overview. I don't want to read each specific card, but kind of what is available at common and uncommon for removal in each archetype. So white, you're looking at like airbending instead of maybe hard removal. You do have an instant that allows you to destroy an attacking or blocking creature and gain extra life, as well as an instant to destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. And so, kind of what we've seen before in white, and then maybe a little bit less so than usual, but blue, you're looking at bounce, you're looking at tapping your opponent and putting stun counters on them. You're also looking at turning your opponent into something like a 1/1 citizen token. We've seen this before. Quench is, it'll quench you is the name of the quench for the set, which is kind of fun. And then you've got this ability to cheaply get rid of a creature so it doesn't untap, and then you can even shuffle it into their library if it has some sort of passive ability that's kind of annoying. So blue looks pretty, I would say it's pretty par for the course. Black has excellent removal as always. Black and red look the most heavy. So black, you've got lessons that can tweak the either have the synergies for black green or just be removal for the -1/-1. You've got sacrifice an artifact or a creature to go into black-white with deadly precision. You've got epic downfall to destroy creatures with a certain mana value to go against the Simic strategy or maybe against the Gruul, the red-green strategy. Heartless Act, I think, is one that a lot of people are excited for. Destroy target creature with no counters on it is just a nice way to destroy most creatures in the format. So it could be kind of a replacement for Go for the Throat. Since right now we're kind of leaning on Shoot the Sheriff in standard. And then we've also got Sold Out, which is a way to have card advantage too. If it was dealt damage, you can then get a clue token, have some synergies there. Red, you're looking at what I thought was a Stone Rain, right? It says choose one, destroy target land, creature, or non-basic land, but because it's missing a comma there, I don't think it's destroy target land, creature, or non-basic land. Let me know in the comments below if you're a judge. I would be curious, because if it's Stone Rain for one more, that's pretty exciting stuff. But I think it allows you to destroy a land creature, like we see with the Earthbend. And then Combustion Technique deals damage equal to 2+ the lesson cards in your graveyard, so it has synergies for the blue-red deck. And then we've got the Firebending lesson, which is another red lesson, and deals 2 damage to target creature. If it was kicked, it deals 5 damage. So I guess I should have covered Kicker in there as well for the returning mechanics. And then we've got the Iroh's Demonstration. It deals 1 damage to each creature, or it deals 4 damage to target creatures. So you can kind of spread out and kill the go wide, or kill something specifically. Lightning Strike, we all know that one. Deals 3 damage to any target at instant speed. And Mongoose Lizard is a creature that when it enters, it deals 1 damage to any target. Now, so you can snipe something small. And then we've also got green, kind of limited to the fight and bite as usual. So we have Allies at Last as an uncommon instant. 2 creatures attack, affinity for allies, goes well in green-white. Earth Rumble is the fight, goes in black-green, but anything that's interested in fighting. And then we've got the Origin of Metal Bending, which is the disenchant. So you get an artifact or enchantment hate, or you can put a +1/+1 counter target creature, and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So that one's pretty nice, especially at common. And then we have the Rocky Rebuke, which is the bite spell at common. So I think it's a pretty awesome set. I'm pretty excited for it. I've heard a mixture of people complaining about it, as usual. Everyone's always got their own opinion of how things are going to be, but I think it's kind of fun. There's a couple of whiffs, right? I mean, there's a couple of cards where you're like, really, that's going to be in green white, but other cards that I think are pretty on point. I think that they've captured a lot of the kind of flavor of the show. If you agree or disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments below. As always, I hope this finds you well. I hope this kind of orients you for the pre-release set. And then later into the format, if you're ever curious about little pointers for draft and things like that, feel free to come hit me up in Discord. I usually post my my draft guides in Discord for what strategy I've been using to climb to Mythic in draft. And probably will post some commander deck lists eventually on Moxfield as well. I always try to create at least one set themed commander deck each set, just for the homies. And enough rambling from me. Take care, everybody. For those of you who are a fan of the channel and have been around for the 5 years I've been doing this, I will be taking a break. This weekend, I will post my version, I think I will, of the decks that I've been playing. Just little tweaks, little fun things that I've done to the meta-specific decks. And then I will see you all sometime in December. I'm going to take some time off. So have fun with the new set in November, and then I will see you all at least definitely by Lorwyn come January. So take care. I'll catch you later.